Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. I'm your host, Luki, and for today's topic, I think I wanted to get into job hunt basics. So when we think about the job hunt, there are basically three components that I encourage folks to look at. The resume, you can put the cover letter in there as well, so your applications. Two are interviews, and making sure that those face-to-face interactions, whether virtual or in person, are done well. And then the third is networking. In my opinion, the best way to find your next opportunity, but you might have to do the other two as well. So there'll be probably deep dive topics on each one of those, but I just want to kind of skim and give you a tip of the iceberg feel for them. So on the application side, going on a job board or things like LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter, ones where you can get access to job postings, I encourage you to take a look there first. Go search for the types of jobs that you want, the companies that you might be interested, and try to find a posting that suits your career. And what you want to do is to create a resume for that. And I'll have some posts on how to create your first resume, but you can use some of the templates out there and fill in your experience, fill in your education, any sort of extracurriculars and volunteer that you have there. And the most important thing that I encourage you to do is to reverse engineer the job posting. And that basically is tailoring your resume for the job posting. And then I also encourage you to write a cover letter. Whether or not the application asks you to do so, I encourage you to take the extra effort, maybe an extra 15 minutes, half an hour, for you to write something, your personal connection for the company and the role. And when you do that, it makes yourself a lot more suitable for that role and more likely to be chosen for the interview. So taking some time, and my general guidance is that if you are job hunting, then job hunting becomes your full-time job. So I usually recommend that you try to hit 8 applications per day, right? And why 8? Well, a typical work day is about 8 hours. And if you can probably do about an hour a piece, one of those in an hour. But the thing is, the first time you do it, it'll probably take a long time. So the first time you might only do 1 job application, then you'll get better at it, and then do 2, 3, 4, 5, and then at some point, when you get to a steady state, then you get to about 8 applications a day. And then the next thing that I encourage you to work on are interviews. So you would also be practicing 8 practice interview questions every day. And for interviewing, if you actually do the resume the way that I encourage you to do, you're actually doing interview prep. Because when you reverse engineer the job posting and you're coming up with specific examples from your experience, you're starting to practice or set yourself up for what could be a part of an interview question. Now, for interview practice, there's a difference between understanding what to say and then actually practice and saying it. So when you interview, you're actually more like an actor, right? You're trying to portray yourself in the best light, and you're trying to convey your experience in a way that best fits the company and the role. So you do need to practice, and oftentimes it's doing that with your smartphone and doing something like I'm doing right now and recording yourself. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about a time when you demonstrated leadership. Grab the top 100 questions from Google or whatever, print them out, cut them up, and put them in a little bowl, and then every day do 1, do 8, and then practice, and get better and better and better. So I encourage you to do that as a starting point to practice interviewing. And then the third one is networking. In my opinion, the best way to find your next opportunity. And networking has a bit of a bad rap, just because people think of kind of the sleazy car salesman and someone looking to sell you something. But I encourage you to think of it like building meaningful connections instead. And my approach to networking is to, 1, start by making connections. So practice reaching out to people either online or in person, connecting with people as you're waiting in line, as you are on transit, or whenever you have the opportunity to meet someone new, just engage with them. And especially for the more shy, introverted folks like myself, then get practice in terms of getting past that anxiety that you might feel when connecting with someone new. And then 2 is making it more meaningful. And that would be engaging in conversation, being curious and interested, and talking about them and getting to know them a little bit more. And ideally adding value, right? And a couple of things that you can do to think about is learn more about them. Think about in the back of your head, how could I help them with that? And at first, you probably won't be able to. But then as you practice and you do more and more and more, you'll find that you'll be able to add more value to them. And then last is to build. So once you meet that person, exchange contact information, LinkedIn, email, text, whatever it is, and then connect with them every couple of weeks, every couple of months. Think about them, actually care about them, and share some wisdom and insights that you found, a book, a good post, a video, or whatever resources that might be helpful for you could also be helpful for them if you feel that that would be something that would be useful and interesting to them. So build that, even scheduling them in your calendar, and then build those meaningful connections. And if you can, plan to, let's say, use LinkedIn and connect with 8 people every day in your industry, in your field, people of interest, people who are posting and doing interesting things. Why don't you like their posts, comment on it, and then connect with them, and then get to know them just like you would in an in-person environment, but do it in the online virtual setting. So as you do that and you build meaningful connections, as you're curious, interested, and adding value to people, then you'll actually find that the jobs start coming to you. So that's kind of the high level basics of the job hunt. Is 1, make sure you have the foundations of a good resume and take the time to write a cover letter. Then practice interviews, because practice makes perfect, and practice makes permanent as well. So if you practice, you get better and better and better and better. And the 3rd is to network. And I find that this is the most beneficial from a job hunt perspective, because as you network with folks, this is actually an investment in yourself, because that networking connection is not just transactional for that moment, it's for the rest of your career. So those are the 3 basic elements of a job hunt. And I hope that was some useful SWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, and hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks. Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.